Guys, it's Hybrid Spectre. You're probably wondering where I've been. I've been working. Been working nearly nonstop, but that's not important right now. I know it's been a long time since I've done a lore video, and I've been wanting to do another lore video for a while. I'm very excited for Shadowkeep, and there are a few lore books that I wanted to read before we actually get into Shadowkeep. So I kind of thought, instead of just making individual videos of each individual lore book, because I just don't really have the time to do it right now, I thought I'd make a stream where I just read as many of the lore books that I haven't read on stream. So, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to read as many lore books that I haven't read on this stream, and you guys can come in and listen. And this will be, and for those of you who actually keep up, for those of you of my subscribers that keep up with my individual lore books, this will be a very long video. So I'll try to I won't be able to leave timestamps for you because there's just no way that I can. But once the actual video goes up, I'll leave a comment and I'll pin it in the comment section for each lore book that's there. So if you guys are interested in one particular lore book that you want to hear me read, then you can just click on the timestamps to take from where you want to go from there. So, yeah. So I've been meaning to do a lot of lore videos for a very long time, but I've kind of didn't want to wear myself out with Destiny before Shadowkeep. So I'm very excited for Shadowkeep. So I need to get back on and do some last minute grinding. But that's not what we're gonna do today. Today it's just gonna be for the lore. So I'm gonna try to read as many of these as I can before I just simply can't anymore. So, but regardless, we're gonna let me just check off these couple triumphs here, and then we'll get started. I've been working on a few of the catalyst before I actually get started with Shadowkeep. So and I kind of think that this is easier for me to just make a stream out of it, because I noticed in a lot of my footage I try to do the way, this will kind of give you a little bit of insight as to how I do my videos. So basically what I do is that I do the readings in one take, or at least I try to do it in one single take. If I mess up somewhere between, I scrap the recording and, I start completely over. I try to do everything in one take, and if I just kind of make any mistakes or any minor mistakes or major mistakes to the point where it's just like, I just can't upload this, then I just scrap it and I just do it over until I get it right. So, but in this case I won't have that. So if I make any mistakes, you're gonna see them. But I hope that doesn't make you guys think any less of me. So, in the time that I've been playing, I managed to get all of the ghost shells. I managed to get them all, so I'm kind of proud of myself for that. Stolen Intelligence we did. Warlock on Ore, I actually need to work on this one on a different character, because you only get this lore book if you side with the Vanguard and defy the Drifter. So that's the only way you get this one. Trying to think if there's any ones that I haven't done. Ava's Journey I'm still kind of working on, but at the same time, this is kind of a weird lore book to get. Legendary Renegade we did. So I know for a fact tonight we're going to be reading Ghost Stories. The Dreaming City we did. We're gonna do the Awoken of the Reef. There's gonna be a lot of big words here, so we're kind of gonna be doing all of the big lore books tonight. The ones that I haven't really bothered to really read because they're just so long. Let's see. Forsaken Prince we did. The Wall of Wishes, there's really no point in really doing this one. Arrows of Thorn. So yeah, pretty much we're just kind of going to be doing, we're probably going to have about 3 lore books in tonight, which is probably something that you guys are not really used to. So we're going to be doing Ghost Stories, Awoken of the Reef, and A Man with No Name. This is the Drifter one. So what I'm going to do is, and Nothing's End. Yeah, we're going to throw this one in here as well, because this is the Lumina one. This is the one that I really wanted to read for a while, but I've been really chipping away at that one. So the books we're going to do tonight are Ghost Stories, Awoken of the Reef, A Man with No Name, Nothing Ends. And Might be one over here that I haven't done. I'm working on these. We'll make videos out of these, but for now, let's just deal with what we got now. So, I'm gonna start with the short ones. I'm gonna start with the short ones first. So, but first and foremost, before we get started, I want to drop the link into my clan chat, so people can come and see me. I sent out a few invites to see if anyone wants to come. So let me do this really quick, and then we will get started. And what was it? There was something I really wanted to tell you guys, and I can't quite figure it out. It was something kind of like due to my absence and whatnot. Crap, we'll figure it out. Sorry, I lost my mind here a second, so let me drop this in my clan chat. Bam, right there. Hang on. Okay, I'll just leave it alone. There. Okay. There's something I was gonna say. Like I said, I've been meaning to really try and get you guys lore videos out, but I've just been so busy with my job and everything, and I just haven't really had the time to really do much of anything. And it's just like what little time I get, I usually just spend sleeping or playing other things. So, oh yeah. For someone as lore heavy as I am, I have completely given up trying to get Chronicler for a couple reasons. I'm still going to complete Truth to Power, but I've completely given up trying to get Marasana. So, I resigned myself that I will never get Marasana simply because that, I think it was like there's one Ascendant challenge where like the eggs, where the taken eggs are like you have to sword jump all the way across the map just to get it. And I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, if I can't get this egg by any other means, if by simple means, then I just simply don't want it. So I'm not about to sword jump across the vast expanse trying to get a piece of lore. Like, if I have to jump through that many hoops just to get one piece, just to get like the 2 pieces of lore that I need to complete this lore book, then frankly I don't want it. So as much as it pains me to say this, I'm giving up on Chronicler simply because simply because the eggs on just one Ascendant challenge is just, I just can't do it. I just don't want to do that. So I'm sorry. So you guys may never see a Marasana video, which I'm sorry. There's nothing I can really do about it. I mean, the only way I could theoretically see myself getting this lore book is if someone does it for me, because I'm not good enough. I'm really not good enough at this game to really even do all these stupid jumps and things that people do. So, and this is kind of my plea to Bungie. You likely will never, ever see this, but fix that egg on that one Ascendant challenge, how you jump across where you have to sword jump, because, I honestly don't want to get that lore if I have to do that. So, anyways, without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to start with the shortest ones first, and we'll save the longest ones for last. So, like I said, any mistakes that I make, you're going to see them. I repeat myself, you're going to see them, because this is the raw footage that you're going to see. So you're going to see me make all kinds of mistakes. So, without further ado, we're going to start with A Man with No Name. And you get this lore book by siding with the Drifter, and you get it by doing by ranking up Gambit. By doing Gambit Prime bounties. I'm sorry. So, A Man with No Name. Heaven or Hell. For the breadth of my formative years, I had one goal. Find my, well, we all have our own word for them, my chosen. And every moment thereafter was dedicated to keeping him alive, whether he liked it or not. They were turbulent times, before the last city, before humanity found hope for the future. I was prepared to kill for it, die for it. a ghost of the Dark Age. He opened his eyes in the night air and took an even breath. He wasn't even sure how long he'd been asleep, but his immediate instinct was to run. He froze. The voice wasn't his. You have to run. The man stood up in the evening light. He looked down at himself and saw that someone had dressed him for his own funeral. He didn't laugh, but he thought it was funny. The voice continued, Can you hear me? Risen fight for territory in these highlands. We need to move. For the first time, he noticed the small drone buzzing in the air around him, a blazing eye at its center, glowing like a blue sun. It jerked its frame to the left, indicating the light of a faraway settlement. Head west. I have friends there. They'll help us. The man stared at the drone, frowned, and ran the opposite direction. What? Hey! The voice cried out behind him. He fled into darkness, tall grass on the other side of him flying past. The only thing he could hear was his own breathing, and the loud crush of the vegetation he trampled. He was surprised at how fast he was moving. The voice called to him again, far behind him. He heard the roar of a machine before he saw it, and he didn't feel a thing as it exploded out of the tall grass to the right and landed on him, crushing him beneath its bulk. He opened his eyes in the night air and took an even breath. You died, the drone explained, hovering over him. It was smeared with a dark, filmy paste. I brought you back. He stood up and looked down at himself. Same clothes. Nothing hurt. The hulking wreck of the machine that had killed him sat in pieces a few meters away, inside a dark, sooty crater. The body of an armored man lay sprawled over the smoldering open-air cockpit, his helmet punctured by a small hole the size of the drone. Are you ready to listen? Let me take you to my friends, it said. This region is full of raiders like this man, led by Risen like you. You've got a lot of catching up to do. And I'm going to pause here for a second. Just for this lore book only, I'm going to do my Drifter impression, because I think it's pretty good. So, here we go. What the hell are you? The man spoke for the first time. I'm your ghost. My only purpose is to support you. The drone replied. You work for me? In a manner of speaking, yes. Is this the afterlife? In a manner of speaking, the drone said, nodding at the western lights once more. Can we go? Not that way. The man headed in the opposite direction. The drone watched him trample the high grass and disappear. It stared up at the massive, disfigured orb that dominated the sky, then made a small adjustment to the orbit pattern of its modular armor. It hurried after the man. Whoops. Probably back down here. Dogma. He'd been reduced to crawling. His ghost cut serenely through the air above him. What the hell is wrong with me? He demanded of the ground. You're dying from starvation, Ghost said flatly. I don't believe you, he sneered as he dragged himself over some rocks. I could fix you, Ghost said. Don't need you, he said. I got this. You're not going to pick a name? Ghost asked. Everyone picks a name. You talk too much. Some people pick names for their ghosts, too. What should I call you, if you don't want a name? He had passed out. The sun beat down directly overhead, a searing marble in the sky. He died a day later after a scorpion stung his prone body. Ghost allowed it. A complete restart would be less complicated. He opened his eyes and took an even breath. What should I call you? Ghost asked. He looked at it as if considering, then down at his hands. I'm still hungry. Home, Part 1. The light is no gift. It takes everything from you. Makes you forget. Not just your memories, but how to live. A Dark Age Drifter. Eaton received its first visitors in years. Germain watched the armored men and women climb down from their silver transports. They were Risen, being said to be unkillable, and they fought against each other in a war without end somewhere beyond Eaton's borders. This particular group, the Iron Lords, represented new ideology, and they claimed they fought to put an end to the fighting. Led by a man named Dryden, they had paid each family in Eaton several months' worth of supplies and rations to stay the week. They planned to stage an ambush on another of their kind, known as the Red Man. 2 weeks ago, survival was in doubt. Now, because of the generosity of the Iron Lords, their little town would make it through winter. Germain's friend Judson emerged from the neighboring supply shed and struck him and stuck a single finger in the air as the raiders strode above, but said nothing. "How you living?" Judson greeted the risen, holding his finger high. "Settle down, Judson," Germain called out. "Shut your hole, Germain," Judson returned, hand still in the air. "Your name is stupid, and you're stupid too." Okay. I may have got those dialogues wrong, but I think in this case Germain is Drifter. Germain shook his head and grinned ruefully. Judson had warned the town against the arrangement, shouting to everyone who would listen that he'd take care of the food, that the iron freaks would only bring trouble. He was a very good huntsman, possibly the best Eaton had ever seen, and somehow produced deer, duck, and bull from the decimated hills. But even Judson had come up short for months. The war beyond Eaton had intensified. The adults went hungry so the children could eat. It wasn't a sustainable position. "We'll be out of your way soon," said one of the Iron Lords, who nodded at Judson as he passed by. Her voice was as metallic and cold as her helmet. Judson spat and didn't take his eyes off them as they walked the length of the town to secure hidden positions around its perimeter. Home, Part 2. "Sir, this is awful," a Dark Age drifter. Yu was 9 cycles old and visited often. She and her family lived next to Judson, and sometimes they sent her to Germain when their boisterous neighbor was too belligerent. As he was today, Germain didn't mind. Judson doesn't think it was a good idea to let the Iron Lord stay with us," she was saying. She paced slowly back and forth across the length of the shack, stepping carefully over the game of cards Germain had laid out on the bare floor. "I know, but Judson says a lot of things, and sometimes you gotta be decisive. You see how much food they gave us?" Germain asked, placing a card down. A lamp flickered nearby. Sorry, I did look at my clan chat. You should pre-record these, make a series of these or something, or create your own series, do like a podcast, audible thing. You have a voice that will work well with hi, folks. Slayer of Goliath, thanks for swinging by. I've been told that I have a very good voice. I usually individually record my lore videos, but I really haven't had time to really do anything since my job is really demanding right now. But I wanted to do a lore video, so it's easier for me just to read a lot of them in there. But do me a solid and kind of put those in the stream chat and put your comments in the stream chat. I'd really appreciate it. So that way I don't have to fumble with my apps too much. I can just pull it up directly from my phone. Anyways, where was I? A lamp flickered nearby, next to the largest pile of ration boxes the shack had ever held. See, Judson knows how to use guns. I've seen him. Maybe he can. No, he can't. Those things out there, you can't kill. Get that out of your mind right now. Yu kept pacing, frowning slightly as she considered it. More food is nice, but Judson thinks they're going to get us dead. I think he might run away, she said. He laid another card down. Appreciate what you get. Your parents were skipping dinner so you could have yours. The Risen solved that for us, for a little while. We have to let them stay. She stopped pacing to consider it and looked up at the sheet metal ceiling. I don't want to die. You won't, Germain said. Why don't you go see what your parents are up to? I'm a little beat. Okay, she said, shrugging. She left. Germain opened a small box of water from the pile of ration packs and poured a tinful. Yu hadn't noticed because it was difficult to see in the flickering lamplight, but his hand shook. Judson's breath steamed in the night air as he shut the gate that bordered town as quietly as he could. Shivering would mean shaking the rickety thing and waking up. Yu's family, so he kept the handle gripped tight as he pushed it back into the place. He now stood on the pass out of Eaton Valley. As he turned around, he walked right into Germain. "Didn't see you there, brother," Judson growled low, stopping just short of throwing an elbow into his neighbor's throat. He backed up a step. Just one. "Where you running to this late?" Germain asked. "Brother?" "What are you, dense? Away from this place before the shooting starts." "We gotta trust this Lord Dryden. We gotta trust this Lord Dryden knows what he's doing," Germain said. Judson shook his head. "You and all the deal makers are gonna get this town dead. These guys are worse. You know how I feel about Risen, but they..." Hang on, got a couple comments. Sorry I won't be able to actually read the comments as quickly, because, McDonald's employee, WTF, want to do a glitch? No, not at all. Judson shook his head. "You and all the deal makers are going to get this town dead. These guys are worse than the stories. You know how I feel about Risen, but they saved us this week." Judson sneered. "No one ever believes it because Risen look like you and me, but they'll kill you without meaning to. Naturally as breathing. They can't help it. They're looking to jump one man. Just one. We gotta see this through. Even the Risen can't contain a fight at that scale. You gonna move, or do I move you?" Germain stepped to the side. "I'm not the law, but where are you gonna go? There's nothing but war land out there, and their prey is coming. I'm a tracker. Kept this town fed for years before you got here. I'll be fine. And that other Risen won't care about one man's passing through. I got nothing to hide. Just need to get away. If you all want to play bait for the warring dead, have a nice life." Germain chuckled. "What's funny?" Judson sneered in that low voice again. "I don't know how you do it. I almost admire you." "How's that?" "You've got no fear. Have a nice life, brother. See you when I see you." Germain walked back to the gate. Home, Part 3. "Who are you? Would you know me if I gave you a name?" "Your ghost made a fatal error. Couldn't catch it, but I confirmed it on tracker." "Who the hell is this? You think I'm one of you? Brother, you got another thing coming." "How is it that I found one man all the way out here then? No food or water for miles. I manage. I have ways to make you tell us what we want to know." Have a sip of... I had to have a sip of my beer. "The Warlord campaign is in this region, and this region never reached into the Southern Valley. Are there any settlements you know of nearby? Anything tucked away in the valley, or inside the mountain range? You could tell me, or I could start cutting. Might be you missed something. You're coming with me. I plan to scout the valley myself, but now I think I'll bring some friends." Germain's hand shook when the warlords, Risen, who conquered the land they found, brought Judson back to Eaton during midday a week later. Half the town came out to see them. One of the men wore red armor that fit the description of the warlord that Dryden and his lords were waiting for. They say that one Risen, reasonably armed, can annihilate an army. Two Risen, assuming adequate cover for ghost support, can fight infinite armies indefinitely. 6 warlords dismounted their machines in a line at the center of town, weapons drawn. They dropped Judson on his knees in front of them. No restraints. He looked unhurt. "Does anyone want to claim this runt?" asked the red man. "We will," Germain said. People groaned. Yu tried to run to Judson, but her parents held her back. "A question first," said the red man. "Where are the Iron Lords? We saw one of their ghosts. One of these. He tapped the bladed carapace of his own drone companion as it floated past him, its eye fixed on the town people. They liked metal. Maybe they helped you, brought you some food. It would explain how you survive out here in this wasteland. But I can guarantee you their motivations are not in your best interests. The red man paused, scanned the crowd as his ghost orbited above him. The Iron Lords are trying to disrupt the established order, and we're here to liberate you from them. You're under our care now. So, where are they? Germain shut his eyes a long moment. Excuse me. When no one else spoke, he decided he would. You're right. They were here, but they're long gone. We paid them for supplies, and they moved on a week ago. Did they? The red man raised his cannon and shot Yu's father in the head. The entire crowd flinched and huddled together as the man fell backward. Yu's mother cried out in fury, but held her child tight. Hands in my heart, Germain said, holding his breath as he waited for the hidden Iron Lords to make a move. The red man held his gun in the air, watching the townspeople intently. The other warlords scanned the horizon, gleaming weapons at the ready. Judson looked at the pregnant pause as an opportunity to pull a fallen shockblade from one of the warlord machines. He gave a triumphant yell and decapitated the armored risen closest to him. The body fell, and he jabbed the length of the blade through the man's back. A third warlord pulled the glaive out of Judson's hands and stabbed him in the side with the gauntlet blade, then hurled him backwards over the machines. All hell broke loose around Germain as the Iron Lords suddenly opened fire from their positions in the surrounding hills. The townspeople scattered as the fallen warlords rose in scintillating pillars of light, the weapons of their hands roaring to life and spitting tracers. The ghost watched from high above the chaos. Over the ages, it had gotten very good at all the peculiar things its chosen had asked it to learn. Down below, gunfire and explosions of light tore through the collection of huts and shacks. The townspeople fled for their lives in the midst of fire and otherworldly flame as the Iron Lords finally abandoned their sniper positions in the hills to close in on the warlords at the town's center. Through it all, the ghost saw one of the men emerge out of the discharge of an errant explosive device, cradling the body of a child. He moved to relative safety behind one of the shacks and knelt down, holding an ear to the child's face. She was trying to speak. One of the armored raiders in the town square raised a heavy machine gun in one hand and raked the length of Eaton with golden tracers. The ghost lost visibility on the townspeople as the hail of machine gun fire filled its vantage point with a rolling cloud of dirt and dust. The annihilating, sense-shattering explosions came soon after, and the ghost increased its elevation. It waited until long after the battle had died out, and the surviving Risen had all left before lowering itself back to the earth. It wasn't even sure which side had won. It didn't matter. The day had turned to dusk. Home, Part 4. The man opened his eyes and took an even breath. Almost nothing was where he remembered it. Eaton was gone, blasted and paved. Mild climate was the only reason the shacks and huts that made up most of the town remained standing. But the storm of light versus light had left scorched earth and shadows behind, and the bones of the dead. It was a blood-red husk. Ghost hovered above him. The man looked down at his hands and tried to chuckle, but coughed instead. "Are you all right?" Ghost asked. He stood up straighter than he had in a long time. Easier to seem like people when you slouch. "Germain?" Ghost asked. "That's not my name." "You let them call you that." The man turned to look at Ghost. "It's not my name. One of the warlords mentioned seeing a lone ghost. Did you get sloppy?" Ghost nodded. "I'm sorry. I was scouting a new livestock route for you, and I got carried away." "I don't ask for much," said the man, shaking his head. "Shovel. Get me one." Ghost scanned the debris and ash to find a charred spade, lifting it with a lasso of light. The man slowly gathered all the bones he could find and began to dig. "The child, you," Ghost continued. "Stop talking," he replied. "What did she tell you?" "You were speaking to her at the end." He didn't respond. It would be lifetimes before he told Ghost the answer. But he would remember. "You could have helped her." The shovel hit the dirt harder. "I told you to shut up." "You could have saved them all." The man had nothing to say. He must have been making more noise than he thought, because he just finished digging a grave big enough for the bones. A voice called out. He dropped the shovel, stared across the vacant town square at the smoldering ruin of Diaz barn. Eaton was dead. No point in keeping his secret any longer. He crossed the distance at a speed and ease that would have shocked his neighbors and rounded a corner to find Judson on the ground, leaning against the barn door. There was a cannon in Judson's hands. His eyes opened wide when he recognized the man and his ghost. Judson lifted the gun with a shaking fist. His other hand clutched a dark stain on his side. "He's lost a lot of blood," Ghost said, its light spilling across the scene. "You were one of them all along," Judson sneered. The man chuckled. "All my lives, brother. You got us killed, you son of a..." The man kicked the firearm out of Judson's hand with no urgency at all. He knelt down to point a finger. No, that one's on you. Those warlords caught you. What else were they gonna do? I wanted to stop you from leaving, but I didn't think I had the right." Judson reached out to grab his throat. The man caught his hand in a vice grip instead, a crushing handshake. Judson frowned and struggled, but he was exhausted, dying, and the man had strength that belayed his frame. The man lifted his other hand, smoldering from a solar glow, and held it against Judson's wound. His former friend managed a high-pitched wail but couldn't break the man's grip, though he tried and tried. The man nodded at Judson, addressing his ghost. "Do you see how he never gives up? Because he knows this one life is all he has? No fear." "Those risen out there," the man finished cauterizing the wound and used his suddenly cool hand to wave indiscriminately into the darkened night. "They'd be long gone. They'd be long dead if they were him. All they know is war. This man survives." Judson made a gurgling sound. He had stopped struggling, but he kept a grip on his hand. "You wanted me to save him?" "You wanted me to save him? Even if this works, he could never show me how to live. Not like he lives. And that's on you." Ghost watched, but he made minute adjustments to his orbiting armor and sent light-based scans cascading across the ruins of the town. If there were lingering warlords or iron lords nearby, they would have to run. The man stood up. Judson was dead. "Maybe you should have told him you were bringing livestock in from 100 leagues away and releasing them for him to catch," Ghost said. "I mean, did you see how happy he was? How they all were? I'm sorry. I mean, did you see how happy he was? How they all were? They got to eat," the man replied. "Give someone something to chase, and you give them purpose." "You're pathetic. This is what you aspire to be? A perennial liar who plays house with refugees? These people are dead because of us." "I lived here as one of them. I lived here as one of them. You could be so much more. Let me show you how powerful your light can become." The man walked past his ghost and brought Judson's corpse to the center of town. He began digging again. He noticed the bloated spherical husk that dominated the sky. It had been out of his life for a while, but it seemed a lot closer to Earth tonight. He raised his hand to salute in a single finger as Ghost looked on. "How you livin'?" he said, and gave a smile to the heavens that ended at his eyes. Loose Ends, Part 1. I never forgive, and I never forget. I live a hard life, sister. A Dark Age Drifter. Wu Ming's bar wasn't always bustling, but it was the afternoon. Wu served anyone who could pay, but his clientele were often risen, not because he provided a menu particularly suited to them, but because he had built his bar at the foot of a mountain called Fellwinter Peak. Now I'm going to hit pause here for a second. I believe Wu Ming is Drifter, because Drifter mentions that he had a bar, so I believe that Wu Ming is his name in this case, but I don't think that's his actual name. So, moving on. Fellwinter was a former warlord, the only one. It was said to hold an entire mountain all by himself. He now rode with the Iron Lords, and Fellwinter Peak was staunchly the territory of the Iron Lords. They had never given Wu permission to build the bar. He had never asked. Almost to a person, the patrons tonight were without ghosts. High winds and inhospitable cold meant those without ghosts rarely visit. But tonight, word had reached the general population that warlords were back in the region. No shots had been fired, not yet, but it was enough to get every poor, lightless wretch from miles around into Wu's bar. Where chances were an Iron Lord or lady might be having a drink, Wu Ming didn't mind. The door swung open again, and a trio of armored figures marched in from the cold. "Welcome to the end of the world," greeted the serving frame. The warlord shouldered past the 5530 and headed straight for Wu Ming at the counter. "What can I get you?" Wu asked, giving a smile that ended at his eyes. The leading warlord, a hulking man with shoulder guards larger than his brain, grunted. "Food. Everything you have. That'll be, well, a lot of glimmer." "You don't understand," the giant man said, grabbing Wu by the lapels of his storm coat. "Give us everything you have in the bag, or we'll gut you and eat you alive." Hey, Satan, a woman's voice said. "Pick on someone your own size." All the eyes turned to a helmeted figure standing a few feet behind Satan. I think that's his name. She only came up to the giant man's sternum. "Lady Ephrodite," Satan muttered. Wu Ming's gaze went from the Iron Lady to the three warlords positioned around the bar amongst his lightless patron. He cursed under his breath and braced to duck. Loose Ends, Part 2. Wu Ming looked on as the warlords surrounded the lone Iron Lady. End of the world is wolves' territory. End of the world is wolves' territory, Ephrodite was saying. And so is the entirety of Fellwinter Peak. That changes tonight. A crescent of light arced between the warlord's open hands. I have an army of raiders and a fire team of Risen waiting at my command. Fellwinter's lost his mind siding with you lot. Underneath the helm, Satan's eyes flickered from the Iron Lady to his warlord ally positioned behind her. The flanking warlord raised a massive cannon and thundered a bullet directly into Satan's chest as Ephrodite dropped to a knee. She swung her cannon to her right side with her left fist and let loose with a roaring double tap behind her, shattering the rear warlord's head. Wu Ming saw that she hadn't so much as looked. The third warlord's submachine weapon fired a spray of bullets that hammered into the floor as Ephrodite rolled. Wu cursed inwardly as wood splinters went flying all over the room. People screamed, but it was over already. The third warlord crumpled. Aphrodite's solar knife had divided his head. Ooh, that's nasty. "Hold," the lady barked, firing her cannon just above their charges. Bits of wood fell to her shoulder. Wu Ming cursed audibly this time. "You know who I am," she shouted at the room. "At this distance, I could shoot all of you out of the air swifter than you could bring your Risen back." The travelers' children froze, their shells spinning aggressively in the air, like metallic bees. "You're free to go," she told them, "but your risen stay with me. Follow the iron decree, and you'll get them back, in time." The ghosts looked at one another. "Tell the warlords," she sneered. "Fellwinter Peak belongs to the wolves." The ghosts left the way their owners came. The bar patrons began murmuring. Aphrodite's ghost, always a quick thinker, started playing music, Lady Scory singing an old hymn. The patrons backed away from the three warlord bodies, but began chattering amongst themselves. The din of conversation gradually filled the room and built into a dull roar. The music helped. "Is this why you asked me here?" Aphrodite said, holstering her weapon. "You said you had some business that paid." "I did." "You finished it," he responded, reaching out with a fistful of glimmer. The Iron Lady stared it down, gawking beneath her helmet. "Who the hell pays you?" "I have means," Wu Ming said, chuckling. "Stick with me, sister. I'll make you rich. I promise." She eagerly took the sapphire cubes out of his hands. Glimmer represented pure material potential. You didn't bring Fellwinter," Wu said. She eyed him. "I told you he never comes down from the peak unless it's official Iron Lord business. What do you need from him?" "Hey, what are you doing later?" Wu asked suddenly. "Hunting Fallen. They're becoming a Fallen at Boyle Pass." We'll be at it till dusk," Aphrodite said, lifting the helmet just above her mouth to grab a drink from behind the counter and swallow an entire mug of malt Wu served. She belched and asked, "Care to join us?" Her smile just beneath the helm was all teeth. Wu chuckled. "Nah, a mere mortal at a risen fight? I'd just get in the way." He thought for a second. "Would you like to dance before you go?" "Nah," she said, imitating his tone. The helm came down. He cocked his head over the music and then leaned in to ask, "Wait, what did you think I said?" "Would you like to dance before you go?" she repeated. "I would love to," he said, stepping forward, arms wide. "Oh, Drifter, you are slick." She sidestepped him and kicked his leg out from under him. He went tumbling to the ground, and someone spilt their drink on him. "I had to try," he called from the floor, watching her go. The plume of her helmet rose above the crowd and was already halfway out the door. "Take the bodies," he yelled, still on the ground. It took him 3 hours to climb the peak that night. He was shivering in his long coat. If not for his ghost, he would have succumbed to the cold long ago. Ghost was hidden, of course. The massive castle doors were already open when he arrived at the top. An Exo, glowing eyes in its sleek black skull, stood just beyond them. It released whatever weapon it was reaching for inside its greatcoat when Wu Ming approached with his hands held high. "I come in peace, brother." Loose Ends, Part 3. It wasn't much warmer inside, though Fellwinter's ghost had lit the fireplace for Wu. He sat across from the former warlord, both of them in massive Gothic chairs. "Who are you?" Fellwinter spoke first. "Your neighbor. I live downstairs, been trying to get your attention for a month," Wu grinned. "What do you want?" Wu thought about it. "I heard you kill." "A necessity of a life in this post-collapse existence?" "No, I'm talking risen. Final deaths. It's gotten real taboo recently. You Iron Lords are changing things." "Who are you? I don't believe you've been honest with me." Fellwinter's voice echoes through the chamber. Wu Ming leaned back and rubbed his temples. His hand shook. Fellwinter stared, unblinking. Wu had the feeling the Exo would sit, frozen in time, until he said something. "Ghost," Wu Ming beckoned. His only friend in the world materialized out of thin air. "Is that supposed to impress me?" Fellwinter asked without a shred of irony. "How else would you survive the climb?" Wu coughed. Ghost shook his head at him. "Let me ask again, then," Wu said, straightening his full posture in the stupid chair. "Will you break the Iron Decree? Will you kill for real?" As a warlord, I did many things I'm not proud of. Under the Iron Lords, I adhered to strict rules of engagement, Fellwinter said. His voice sounded hollow inside his armored skin. Ghosts are not valid targets. I heard you care very much about right and wrong, and the delivery of justice to those who deserve it. Fellwinter's eyes glowed brighter. I can't think of a more human act, he said after a moment's pause. I don't know that anyone has had a right to that, but I believe in revenge with all my heart, and I have a request, knowing what... Oh, I'm sorry, that's Drifter. I don't know that anyone has a right to that, but I believe in revenge with all my heart, and I have a request, knowing that you do what you do. Fellwinter tapped his chin. What are you asking me? Wu told him a story about a long-forgotten town far away called Eaton. Early in the age of Iron Lords, a lord called Dryden had brought food for the town's starving people, but in return asked to use them as bait to bring a local warlord into position for an ambush. This, Wu had learned, went against the code set out by Lord Radagast, the founder of the Order. Dryden had broken the rule of involving lightless individuals in Iron Lord business, because it was those people the lords had unified to protect. The town had agreed, of course. What choice did it have? But the ambush had gone horribly wrong. The warlord target had brought a whole fire team to the fight. Eaton's erasure was utter and complete. Though Wu later learned that Dryden won the battle, he lost every lord under his command, ghosts and all, and he committed the additional sin of inflicting final deaths on the warlords he defeated in an act of bloodlust and rage. In the intervening years, Wu had learned that Dryden kept this under wraps, and that he and his ghosts were now among the most decorated of lords, next to the likes of rising champions like Saladin and Lady Aphrodite themselves. Fellwinter sat frozen in his chair. It was difficult to tell if he had registered any of what Wu Ming had said. How do I know you're not lying? The hollow voice asked finally. I have live recordings, Wu replied. His ghost transmitted the data stream to Fellwinter's ghost, who nodded. Eaton, who were those people to you? Nothing. Just ghosts. You want revenge for people you care nothing about. Is the dark horse of iron for hire? Fellwinter stood and politely motioned for Wu Ming to take his leave. Wu sighed and shrugged and left the chamber. He had a long climb ahead of him. The XO parted his coat and drew a long bronze shotgun from his side. What do you think? His ghost asked. Call Lord Dryden. Prepare my Iron Banner arsenal. And that's it for The Man with No Name. It's quite the cliffhanger, though, but this kind of does give you some insight into the Drifter and what had happened. So, it's kind of like I made a whole Reddit post about the Drifter and everything, and I guess since it's a lore stream, I guess I can talk a little bit about the lore. But my initial theories about the Drifter is that he's not really a bad guy. He just kind of lived in probably the worst time it was to be a Guardian. There was no organization to be a Guardian. Risen pretty much did whatever they did. But I think the turning point for Drifter was the complete erasure of Eaton, the town that he was in. And if you read the Ghost, the tape recordings that he sends you on when you side with him, he says something that he found this town. And the thing is, when Fellwinter asks him who these people were, and he says ghosts, I don't think Drifter means that, because he obviously cared something for that little girl that died. I think her name was. But honestly, I think Drifter really isn't as bad of a guy as we all think of him. Now, I'm not saying he's completely innocent, but what I am saying is that Drifter is one of those guys that, like, he has seen some stuff. He has seen some things that would really damage a person. And I think Drifter is mainly just a very damaged person that I think he kind of does the things that he does as kind of a way to kind of maybe protect himself and maybe other people. It's probably a defense mechanism, but this is kind of something I may need to pull back that Reddit post to kind of really get a better understanding of this. I may make another video on it, but we'll see what happens. So that is A Man with No Name. This is the first time I've actually read this book fully through, so chalk that one up. I'll put a timestamp for those. So next, I'm going to do Nothing's End. This is the Lumina one. You get the pieces of this lore through the Lumina hand cannon quest. So I'm going to take a sip of my beer here, and we'll get started. Excuse me. Okay. I'm going to take a sip of water too, because it'll dry out my mouth. Nothing ends. The eternal chain and the other's prize. You've earned the word, replicated the sickness, proven yourself time and again. Yet another challenge remains, not your last, far from it. Simply another chapter in another story that will bind your legend to those that came before. Raziel sought to vanquish terrors. Yor fertilized the wilds with suffering and despair that a new hope would grow. I was that hope. My fire showed that whispers could be hushed. To many the legend, the lesson ends here. They're wrong. Dangerously so. Yor's true lesson, and by extension Raziel's, wasn't that strength beats strength. His lesson was far more subtle and infinitely more grand. Adversity leads to evolution, forces it, and through the crucible we are remade, better, stronger, more than we were. The guardians of today are not gods, nor where those who came before were all simply links in the chain reaching back to the dawn of time and forward to the end of existence. Each link gaining strength from others, each link stronger than the last. Just as I was stronger than you are stronger than me. The whole working to solidify the parts and growing sturdier as the harsh truths of reality stretch and strain to break us, to break the chain, our individual links. Excuse me. But our chain shall never break, because warriors like you and I are not so proud as to forsake our past. We learn from it, grow from it. It is the foundation upon which we build each victory. It is the catalyst of our change. Here, now, I offer you the chance to spark a new evolution, the next hallmark of our betterment, the next leap forward in our war against extinction. I've held this jagged weapon since that fateful day on Dwindler's Ridge, kept it hidden away, kept its secrets, kept its nightmares locked away where none could hear, none could be tempted. It's quiet now, except a low murmur, but its sickness remains. There were countless times I thought to destroy it, remove its threat from the playing field, but I knew it held a greater purpose, and I believe that purpose can be found and fulfilled in your hands. The Hive use untold methods to destroy us. The weapons of sorrow are but one. The fate of this wicked tool is in your hands now. Will you allow sorrow to linger, a festering threat waiting to consume all who are tempted by its power? Or will you forge a new road? Will you show the Hive and every guardian who follows in your wake that sorrow does not guide us? I leave those questions for you to ponder, but I know what I believe. We are stronger than our deepest fears. We are, ever and truly, weapons of light. S. Elegy for Callum's soul and Callum's refrain. Elegy for Callum's soul. Cull. Are you sure? Vale. Nevermore. I'm not questioning the plan, just will it work? The temptation must go further. We've baited the hook with dark imaginings, but to truly gauge the ill intent of those hiding behind the light, we have to give them a clear path toward their darkest desires. And those who veer, those who join my mad crusade, we do as your namesake suggests. Thin the herd. Excise the weak few that the whole may grow stronger. What if more joined than intended? What if such vile messages spread? What if such vile messages speak to the fear that grips us all? Hate is easily sowed among a people on the brink. It's not the people we seek to judge, it is their protectors. We do this for the people, for the future. Not mine. Funny. Gotta get the jokes in while I can. Soon, as I break rank, it's all gloom and doom. You will become the darkest shadow, the very thing they fear we will all become. And the vanguard, they approve? No. They say this play acting will foster genuine hatred. They don't know what you ask of me, and they never will. I'll be a villain. Only to those who do not truly matter. Callum's refrain. Callum, I've tossed aside all I once held dear, and returned to purity of self. We do not need titles torn from dead fables. We are, and have always been who we are, hated, feared, lost, broken. Dredge and Yor did not make us. Orsa and his fools would have us believe we walked in the footsteps of truest pure sorrow. I say my sorrow equals that of Yor. I say it transcends. I say we are the future, and the future does not wait for failures resting as ash in a field of some lonely, forgotten ridge. The book says we must be unmade, not remade, not evolved, not improved, unmade. To achieve such glories, we must start with ourselves. We must look into the abyss, naked and unafraid of its judgment. Human, against many our human weakness, but Orsa. I'm sorry, I was checking my phone for notifications. We must look into the abyss, naked and unafraid of its judgment against our many human weaknesses. But Orsa knows this, as did Bane and the others. They fear true judgment. They would hide behind their interpretations of Yor's ancient texts, seeking understanding as if it means to delay what must be done. No. No more gambits. No more posturing. No more running from a lone man with a golden gun. Malfur is not a worthy foe. He's an excuse. No longer. From this moment on, we, those few brave enough to heed my words, we will walk a straight line toward the abyss. We will end all who change our course. Gathering cheers. The Liar's Trap. The gambit paid off, in more ways than one. The Guardians who joined in the Drifters' games have proven to be perfect guinea pigs to demonstrate a larger point. The shadows of dark power that tempt us are not inherently evil. In fact, they are simply another tool to be used if we hope to bend the unknown to our will. An impossible feat we must learn to master if we wish to push back the ever-aggressive tide of extinction. Azir knew this long ago. Long before anyone else. He saw the path forward. He simply didn't understand it. His courage and strength clouded the dangers of the path he tread. The path we now walk. The difference being we have Azir's folly to guide us. We can and have learned from his mistakes that some level of deceit was needed to further my goal of seeing Azir's path to the end. To the end is unfortunate, but necessary. The stage is set by the foul sport the Drifter has crafted, has given many Guardians the confidence they need to see the shadows for what they are without losing their way or tainting their light. This was Azir's gravest mistake. He plunged freely into the abyss, thinking his will alone could fend off the whispers and the corruption. But alone we all fall. Only together we can thrive in light and dark. Which leads to another need addressed by Drifter's promise. Those Guardians who would give freely of themselves and seek not only power in the shadows, but comfort, purpose. They have been drawn out and addressed with some force and, sadly, an end. Others quickly forfeit their troubling ambitions when faced with dire truth of the journey they've begun. In the end, many shadows have fallen, but they have been false prophets, lost souls who have fallen to despair sooner or later. Best to tempt them here and now in a manner we can control and correct than to allow the weak will to fester within our ranks. S. Excuse me. So yeah, this is the first time I'm reading all these lore books because I just haven't had time to make individual videos out of them. Anyone who's still watching, sound off down there in the comments because hope you guys enjoy what I'm doing here. The Darkest Shadow. Conversation between Vale and Bane. Have you seen Callum? Yes. He shed his dark name and preaches our weakness, paints us as cowards. He is a preacher born. New members flock to his twist doctrine daily. More than I'd hoped. So many fought to earn the title Dredgen, only to throw it away when they found a voice that truly spoke to their anger and fear. Are you surprised? Not in the least. Disappointed, maybe, but surprised that the ignorant who fall under the thrall of any who stoke their hatred would be so easily swayed? Never. After all, was that our intent? Isn't this why Callum has taken his burden upon himself? It is. The division is becoming clear. As our numbers grow, more join Callum. As we gun them down, still more will take up arms. The weak are being culled, as intended. A new legend to guide them. Do you see your role in all this? Can you understand the importance of your deeds? The hero of the Red War, the judge, jury, and executioner of the scorned barons. Your legend has only grown since your revival. So many challenges faced. So many obstacles overcome. It is you who must now shed the rest. Every guardian, every warrior, every huddled, hopeful, broken soul, that we are ready to face any threat. And to do so, we must be willing and able to become masters of the light and dark. This isn't to say we must give ourselves freely to the shadows. Far from it, and quite the opposite. We must instead bend those shadows to our will, infuse them with light, such that the sickness dims, but their power remains. And when they writhe and hiss and refuse to be bound to our resolve, we will see them destroyed until all that remains are those powers that will be honed and controlled, and those that will be eradicated in the wake of our advance, from the brink of annihilation to our inevitable reclamation of this system and the stars beyond. It is you who must be the guiding light. It is you, the best of us. S. The Calling. Conversation between Vale and Callum. Vale. It is time. Callum. I am ready. You cannot return from this. Yeah, that was the deal. And you go forth with no regrets? And you go forth with no regrets? We have riled the foolish and set the trap. If my end is the means by which we can ensure a generation of those whom the shadows would corrupt are removed from the playing field, then my end is welcome. Braver words have never been spoken. And Paula? Your ghost understands as well as you. She is safe now, with Bane, given a new shell. And sad, but aware of what is at stake. Whose ghost was this? Unknown. A dead thing wrapped in your familiar's carcass. Simply play your part. Stab the thing. And when you are gone, I will plant the audio to set you as a martyr, and myself as the villain. And what if they discover Malfur and Orsa are one and the same? They will not. Then onward, right? Ever. It has been an honor. The honor is now, and it has ever been, and will always be, mine. Too kind. Go well, friend. I will, brother. Return to the light. the brilliance of bloom. Rose was never any more special than any other weapon of its time. It didn't fire faster or hit harder. Its power came from the hands that held it. Azir was a gifted destroyer, a rare and mighty defender. And much like far older legends, his deeds and manner, his weapons and journeys have taken on lives of their own. So too in time will yours. I don't know that he ever reflected on his legacy. Truth told, I'd imagine that he never considered his own death until after becoming the other, till after becoming your. I often wondered if he was aware of the monster he began, or whether even in that twisted, dark, nightmarish form, he still saw himself as the noble warrior, the defending knight, giving all of himself to protect his crumbling castle. It's possible Vincent knows, though I wouldn't. It's possible Vincent knows, though I would never ask him. There is still a soft spot there, a pained longing for the friend he'd lost. My point is, sometimes we're forced to become other as we make our way along our individual roads. You, however, have been true to yourself at every turn, always facing forward, always accepting the burden of impossible odds, not because of glory, but because of necessity. A thing needed, doing that we may all live to see another day, and so you did, time and again. Your legend already spreads, but what you do next as you conquer light and shadow will set us all on our way forward to a future where generations will be fueled by your righteous might. You are the bloom that will serve as inspiration for the stories used to bolster the courage of countless heroes to come. You and I, and untold others, could never be a beacon, a champion, a true and honored guardian. S. A long goodbye. Damn it. My mic accidentally unplugged. Sorry. The long goodbye. Wasn't that a... wasn't this the name of, like, a weapon in Destiny 1? Because I feel like I've seen this name before. I feel like this was, like, a name of a Destiny legendary in D1 or something. I don't know. Those of you who are watching, or those of you who are going to be watching this on my channel eventually, put that down in the comments, because I'm curious to know, because I feel like I've seen this, the long goodbye. I feel like I've seen this before. I don't know. Put that down in the comments. I'm very interested to hear, because I feel like I've seen this before. Anyways, the long goodbye. I told you I was done once the last word was in your hands. But that letter, as with most things, was another test. I gave you all the guidance I could and all the reassurance, but needed to see you acting upon all you have learned free of my direct hand. Sure, the Vanguard and your allies, old and new, were around to aid you. But as always, you forged a trail all your own, ever true to yourself, ever strong and defiant against the endless tide that threatens us all. Your consistent heroism and ability to adapt your skills and aggression to face ever-evolving trials prove you worthy of my confidence. This is why I share my truths with you, my journey, the shadows, our purpose, our sins. When you saw Thorn, the hated yin to the words noble yang, I knew you were headed into a faithful direction that would see me and mine as nothing more than an afterthought. Turn my notifications really quick. Anyways, sorry. This is why I share my truths with you. My journey, the shadows, our purpose, our sins. When you saw the thorn, the hated yin to the words noble yang, I knew you were headed in a fateful direction that would see me and mine as nothing more than afterthoughts in the wars to come. That I may have served as a catalyst, or even a sliver of your continued growth is an honor. All of my faith says you will be a linchpin in the building of a new world. one where absolutes cower to the might of compromise, where light tempers dark, and the dark opens new insight into the light's many undiscovered gifts. From this moment on, my closest allies and I will be gone. Our job is done. And despite appearances, our purest intent was never as simple and mundane as to rile and endanger though such tactics were needed. No, our task was always to find those like yourself who could further the meaning of what it meant to be a guardian and to push you forward in ways never before considered or allowed. Part of me worries that you will hold some level of contempt for the manner of which I have chosen to work. The Vanguard certainly do, and they do not endorse it, though they abide it. They don't know everything the shadows and I have done. It is better they do not. But know this, as clearly as you know anything, the means justify the ends, and there is no part of me that regrets the choices I've made. The circumstances that have led us all here, yes, there is a pain at the very heart of me that any of us must exist in this terrible world we have, in part crafted for ourselves. But know above all things, it is our enemies, those who have come from out of the black to hinder our every advance, who deserve our ire. They are wicked, and they are boundless in their villainy. I speak not only of the Hive, or the Fallen, the Vex, or the Cabal. They are enemies at every turn, including a small but growing faction of the champions you call brothers and sisters. Be ever mindful of the selfish and ill-prepared. They are few, but they are a constant among any group striving to better themselves, and they will drag you down into the abyss faster than any taken horde or red army. Good luck, Guardian, hero, friend. The true shadows are no more. Only myself, Gray, Mass, Pivik, and Yasuo remain. And we take our leave of these wars. The rest, those guided by ignorance and fear, have been gunned down. And with your help, the hated name Dredgen has been reclaimed, worn now by heroes. Do good, Guardian. Be brave. S. Well, that's interesting. So the shadows are still around, just the ones that are... Oh, that's interesting. The final whisper. And that is all of it. A journey from nowhere to here, from my life to yours. It all started with Yor, but now the journey is yours. I never told anyone this, not even Teban, but the first whisper I heard was not aboard Yor's ship, where we found his writings, nor was it when we followed his path and resurrected our own diseased replicas of Thorn. The first whisper was on the ridge, standing over his body, just before I released the final 2 sun-baked charges into his limp, motionless body. There was a faint calling, wicked words in a hateful tongue. I've lived with those words every day and night since. They were simple, they were quiet, and they were this: nothing ends. For the longest time I took them as a threat, as the abyss offering a promise that death had not been sated that day, and that it would come, as it always has, for everyone and everything we know. But that would mean fear that the natural order is our enemy. And then years, decades later, I got to thinking about Yor, but more importantly about Azir, and I came to a realization that doesn't have to be true to my truth. And it is this: those words were not the abyss. They were not a worm's whisper or a vile promise, nor were they a threat. They were a warning from Azir to me. A fight had ended, but not the fight. He was telling me, warning me that a journey had ended, but many more were coming. Many more were to come. And that goes for you, Yor, me, the shadows, Thorn, the last word. In the wake of your legend, we will be the footnotes, afterthoughts, forgotten by most. And someday, another will make the same of you. This is our purpose. This is our charge. To aspire those who would continue our efforts. So go now. This chapter is over. But remember now, and remember always, nothing ends. S. Wow. So Shin Malphur was one of the shadows. Wow. That is interesting. That is very interesting. But I wonder which one he was. Was he Vale? Wow. That's insane. That is really insane. I did not know that. Wow. He was on that ship. Huh. But in a very strange way, the New Legend to Guide Them All, this is almost true, because if you really think about it, from each and every one of our perspectives, really, our guardian is the best guardian to ever exist. And that, but of course, you know, from our perspective, we are the best guardian. But that almost does beg the question, because there's no speaker, we technically should be the next speaker, if you really think about it, because we are the best guardian of guardians. We are the best guardian ever. We kill gods, we fight the hive, we reclaim the traveler's light. Technically, we should be the next speaker, if you really think about it. But yeah, that's a theory for another day. But wow, my jaw's starting to hurt from all the reading that I'm doing. But wow. Let's see. Let's see. Anyways, yeah. Okay. Sorry, got a little sidetracked there. Awoken of the Reef. Okay, this is gonna be a long one. This is gonna be a very long one. I better have a bottle of water close by. Yeah, I do. I got a couple bottles of water nearby. Okay. Sleepy. Man. Okay. So, Awoken of the Reef. And then, there was one. I said I was gonna read the ghost stories, didn't I? Wow. I may need to actually just do a separate video for the ghost stories, because man, it's getting late. I'm tired. I had to close at work tonight, but I wanted to at least read a few of these lore books just so I could at least get a lore video for you guys, because I'm so sorry I didn't release those, but it's mainly a stream, so you're getting all of it. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read Awoken of the Reef, and then I'm gonna kill the stream, because that's just gonna be that'll do it for me. So let's do this. Awoken of the Reef. Revanche 2. Or Revanche. Revanche. I think it's Revanche. I think. Revanche 2. Mara calls a caucus of elected representatives in the Sacred Fire, one of the largest hulks in the reef of derelicts. The fire was built to support habitat construction on For Vesta. Excuse me. Where Mara hopes to one day anchor the entire flotilla and set down roots. But the hopeful, fearful faces before her make Mara afraid that it'll never happen. What if someone runs off at the first hint of home, having come so far, across worlds and eons to see Earth again? How can she ask them to hold back now? "We've found humanity," she tells them. "We found our ancestors." The cheer of triumph and wonder thrills her to the marrow. Most of these Awoken are distributary born, raised on myths of humanity and the traveler. She has just opened the pages of their storybooks and conjured them to life. What remains of the human species lives in a single settlement, she nods to Uldren, who snaps his fingers for footage. His ship's holographic perspective plunges through the fluffy strata of clouds and mist out into clear air. A lucid vista, a perfect instant. The white mountains, the city, and the enormous shattered sphere that hangs above it. "Freeze," Uldren commands. That is the traveler. As the crowd murmurs and thrills, Mara feels herself bridle. She doesn't like that thread of reverence. She doesn't like the traveler looming there, almost but not quite completely dormant, like a dying heart ripped from its body, thrown into warm water. It ebbs and flutters as if you look at it with the right sensors. If the Traveler had the power to protect anyone, wouldn't it protect more than one huddled settlement? Isilla, daughter of Scylla, leaps up from the crowd, too small to make it on her own, but buoyed up by enthusiastic neighbors. "What are we waiting for?" she calls. "That's everything we came to find. They need us. That's where we belong." Aldrin and Mara trade glances. Aldrin snaps his fingers and the recording resumes. Something moves in the treetops. The canopy roils and parts. A red-blown aircraft, shaped like a fat, wingless, furiously angry dragonfly, bursts from cover and climbs to intercept. Aldrin's head-cued camera tracks the target, and Mara imagines his narrow grin as he waits for the other guy to make a move. The dragonfly ship drops a brace of little needles, and erupt into dirty orange flame, and come arrowing after Aldrin. Everyone is in the caucus gets an earful of his grunts as he whips through a high G turn and climbs away. "Those are fallen," Aldrin says. "They are a species of interstellar scavengers and subsistence pirates. They've been here a long time, and they've sacked most of the large settlements that survived the original fall of humanity. There may be more fallen than there are humans left on Earth." He lifts his chin to bear the pale scar across his throat. "I landed and went looking for prisoners. I was ready when he pulled 2 knives on me, but it turned out he had an extra set of arms." Nervous laughter. "Worse," Mara adds, beckoning the panes of deep space passive sensor data. "They're all over the solar system. We've detected flotillas of their interstellar ships around Jupiter and Venus. They don't go near Mars, but only because it's under occupation of another alien species. Mercury is, well, you can see for yourself." Gasps of horror at the clockwork cinder, all that remains of the legendary garden world. "We believe this may be the work of the Vex, a machine species listed in Shipspire's threat index." Isilla, famed historian, puts a voice to the plea in the crowd. "So they need our help, don't they? We have to go to them. Our ships, our technology. We could make all the difference." "No." Mara collapses the projected images between her hands. She stayed up late wrestling with this dilemma, which kept her from wrestling with Sior. It was a choice she had to make alone. We can't reveal our existence lest the Fallen track us down. We need more information. Our focus must remain on securing this derelict reef, bootstrapping industry and a population, and scouting out the solar system. "Mara, with all my respect, all my genuine gratitude for bringing us here," Isilla sighs. "Who died and made you queen?" Mara says nothing else, but she thinks. "Everyone. Isilla. All of us died and made me queen." Revanche 3. "It's bad," Sior Ado says, confirming what Mara already knows, but nonetheless performing the valuable service of mopping away the blood and tears and allowing Mara to glimpse the actual shape of the wound that divides her people. Not a literal wound, though she is right now tending to Aldrin's scar, tweezing tiny fragments of fallen metal for analysis. But the rift in her reef, the schism, now re-schismatic as if the quake split the distributary awoken from Mara's people, is now firing off aftershocks. She should have known this would happen. She shouldn't have told them so much about Earth. How bad? Sior pokes Aldrin hard in the gut, where a passing line of molten metal left a red burn. He's under anesthesia, but he snarls at her anyway, as of the last caucus, I'd say 30% of the expedition wants to head for Earth. If you ask for the 891, though there aren't 891 of them anymore, it's more like 80%. Mara swears and pulls a bloody line of solidified slag from her brother. Unacceptable. We can't lose their skills. Or their genes. The Awoken have yet to adapt to the attrition of this harsh spaceborne world. The tentative mothers are still in the early stages of designing their babies. It's vital to maintain a diverse gene pool, and the Fallen will vector them back to us. I know, Sjor says heavily. That's when I'm going to die. The most horrible thing about the words is that they slap down on Mara's consciousness like face-up cards, like the truth revealed. Unacceptable, she barks, and then both she and Sjor begin laughing. That's when Mara shakes her head and growls, "You can't know that, Sjor. No one can know that." I do. I don't know how, but I do. I know it's going to be something I choose to do. And it's going to be incontrivetably heroic. I think that's how you say that word, which is enough for me. But if that's true, Mara proposes, flinching away from the personal conversation they really ought to have, and all its attendant rawness, if you die when the Fallen attack us, it means I won't stop these people from fleeing Earth, and the Fallen are going to find us, and we're doomed. She's already building intricate models of how the universe might accommodate fate or doom, and how she might go about destroying those things. Could be, I suppose. Sjor pulls a parchment of thin rag of dead flesh off Uldren's wound. Look, I'm the Queen's bodyguard. I always expected to die violently. I'm not the Queen. Maybe that's your problem. She flicks Uldren's chest, leaving a purple bruise, fading. What is it with you two, anyway? You never talk about him. You never seem to think about him at all. But he's dashing himself to pieces for you. How do you live as his favorite and only sister for so many centuries and hardly even smile at him? Secrets, Mara thinks. You've got to have secrets from each other so there's room for him to fill in the gaps with his own happy illusions. Two ships joined together rigidly will tear each other apart if they try to move. But a loose tether leaves room to maneuver, and they can be quickly disengaged if necessary. That makes her think of Sjor's prophecy again. She sets the shrapnel down in the dissection dish very gently. You won't die. I won't allow it. Oh, man, it's going to be a long read. Jeez. Of the disasters that might happen in space, riot is the worst. Breaches can be contained, fires can be starved, plague can be quarantined, radiation shielded, heat vented. But a riot has a will of its own. A chaotic ingenuity that corrodes any countermeasure. Mara crawls through compartments choked with vaporized coolant. She keeps low and clutches the breather to her face. All she can think of is Kelda waged last message and the data attached. Mara, the paracausal effects are strongest around you. Whatever's happening to us, you are the locus. I cannot overstate how subtle and how important this discovery might be. Mara, when we use radioactive decay as a trigger for simulated bombs that could harm Awoken, the trigger atoms are 1,000-fold less likely to decay near you. People are literally safer when you are around. She has to get into the riot. She has to protect her people. A horrible groan vibrates through the habitat structure, and then, with an apocalyptic shudder, something tears off the reef. A ship. A ship is leaving. Mara has failed. Mara drops onto her belly and pants in the mask. Then, cringing in anticipation of migraine, she activates the augment, a jury-rigged machine her Utex produced for exactly this purpose by extracting Mara's ruined distributary implants and reworking them. She's going to fire a command override to shut down the ship systems. But then she realizes it's a salvaged human vessel, deaf to her commands. She gasps in frustration, sucking down cold-bottled air. Sjor. I'm here, her radio whispers. pinned down in the dockmaster's office. I shot a few in the shoulders. They seem to have gotten the idea. Let them go. If one ship's away, there's no sense holding back the rest. Our position is compromised. Understood. Broadcast to everyone. I'm going to allow anyone who wants to leave the reef to go. This is their one and only chance. She rolls onto her back and stares up into the swirling vortices of coolant, seeing faces, features, the lives she has just lost, the lives she might yet lose. She's brought her people here to die in the sense that she brought them into mortality, but she never wanted it to happen quickly. They know, Your Majesty, Sior says. They already know. What? You told us. We heard your voice. All like gratitude in Sior Ito's voice. Mara, I heard you. You spoke to me. Revanche 5. Thus the riven awoken were riven again, into reef-born and earth-born. Those who left went to scour the ruins of their lost history and give some succor to their human cousins who still clung to a hostile world. The world came unto these humans like Nephilim, armed with lost weapons for... Excuse me. Jeez, I hate that. The awoken came unto these humans like Nephilim, armed with lost weapons, forgotten history and medicine. They were like omens of hope, for they were often taken to be star-born colonists returned to the hearth, which was not, after all, so far from the truth. All who looked on them saw the night sky contained more than lurking doom. They bred true with each other, and sometimes hybridized with humans, and in the course of centuries, many forgot the distributary and even the reef. However, there was always in their souls an itch, a vector, pointing to a distant place in the asteroid belt, where their queen still dwelt. They've made a difference already, Sior told Mara not long after the first awoken made planetfall on Earth. They'll save us with the provisions of medicine, pure water, and construction supplies that even if they all died by year's end, they would each yield 10 or 20 humans. I know, Mara said with bitter pride. Let the people remember them as saints and paladins, and tell no one how many more they might have saved if they had only kept the faith. For she knew the precious value of each awoken life. She knew how many she would have to spend and mourned, each soul wasted on a lesser purpose. On the day the fallen struck, Mara was proclaimed queen. It happened swiftly, though after no little debate among the people, for everyone was afraid of a monarch who could speak to their thoughts. Yet they feared more to deny her power and sovereignty, for they had come between worlds in her name. To refuse her would be to refuse their choice. Awoken, she told them, for the first time in my life, I hesitated to reach for power. And now 1 in 3 of you are gone. I cannot deny what the cosmos has made of me any longer. I am your one and rightful queen. She knew she had been a fool to pretend to be a peer to the others. She was true of her brother. Was true of all awoken. What was true of her brother was true of all awoken. All they needed secrets to marvel at, that rhymed with that deep enigma of their souls. They could not follow what they fully understood. There would be a formal coronation later in a place not yet built. Out of respect for that unhappy coronation, Mara did not at first wear a crown, and later she claimed as her diadem the ring of event horizon that surrounds the observable universe. My Techians, she said, gathering Kelda Wage and the other Uteks who remained, will be given absolute authority to explore our new power, the Traveler's Relics, and all associated domains. We are no longer in the realm of pure science. We require an order of mysteries and witches to tend to them. Not an hour later, a fallen ketch threw off its stealth and began a deceleration burn towards 4 Vesta. The four-armed predators had traced one of the earthward ships back through all its erratic course changes and to the reef. They came in search of the source of these blue apekin. A salvo of coherent matter guns gutted the ketch. Blink quick death for the mighty ship. Ancient fury compressing matter into a relativistic pinhead. It was a waste of weapons that couldn't be recharged or reloaded. However, and the Baron in command had already scattered his skiffs like camouflage seeds. The fallen raiders came down all over the reef and had cut their way inside. The awoken, young to mortality, terrified of death, fled in fear. Mara, Uldren, and Sior Edo rallied as many as they could. Sior fought in a powerful combat shell, but Mara needed to be seen vulnerable, silver-haired, narrowed-eyed, hurling herself at the enemy. She fought with a pistol and dagger, and her brother moved like a wraith at her flank. Her people were ashamed of their timidity. No more were the fallen, scuttling alien predators. They were an indignity, an offense to regal privilege to be met with a snarl and a rifle shot. The Awoken saw their desperation, how the stump-limbed dregs stumbled forward emaciated, how the vandals cringed from the battle as they peeled off wall panels, desperate for salvage to please their captains. Armored Sior Edo met the fallen Baron in zero gravity, in combat above his spider tank, and shot him dead. One adamant shaft through the plate and throat. Ether hissed into the vacuum. Sior threw herself upon the spider tank that clung to the Sacred Fire's hull. Laughing in joy, she cut the tank's barrel and threw a charge inside, knowing its next vengeful shot would be meant for the Sacred Fire's main habitat drum, and that she would die in a catastrophic misfire. The tank fired. The charge detonated. Sior Edo was thrown clear, utterly unharmed. "That was where I should have died," she said in wonder, and in her mind was the smiling face of her queen. Telic 1. Mara made one more attempt, and only one, to call her scattered people home. She had hoped the assault wouldn't convince them that they had responsibility to the reef, to come home and repair the damage they had caused. It went poorly. It went poorly, however, for though her tech witches were able to amplify her bond to her people through the augments Keldam had developed, she was only one voice in a maelstrom. Her Awoken had sensitive antennae, in the metaphysical sense, and could not hear her plea through the clamor. Also, the communications engineer kept forgetting to call Mara Majesty or Queen. Take a sip of my beer here. "Good news," Uldren told her with a grim delight he always showed after a debacle he had survived. "Ilyn and I went through fallen communications logs. Their Baron never transmitted our position to his Kel. He wanted the prize to himself. We remained secure. The Baron might have planted a time-delayed beacon," Mara warned him. "Never underestimate these beings. They lived in the void longer than us." "I already admire them," Uldren confessed. "They've lost so much. Some of them even ritually dismember themselves, Mara, to prove that they have strength to grow back the missing limbs. I tell you that even if I were doomed to dwindle and go extinct, those fallen may outlive us." Mara made a dry note in her log about that her brother had at last discovered his true people. For her part, Sior Edo wandered about in a daze, filled with joy to be alive and grief that she no longer knew the day when she would die. "In you, all things are possible," she told Mara. "I live because of you." When Mara saw her string her mighty bow leg and around her opposite arm, and she was glad beyond telling that Sior had survived. In time, Mara appointed paladins to oversee her new military, and Alis Lee had done during the Theosity The Theodisi War. She created talented starfarers as corsairs to scout the asteroid belt in the utmost secrecy and to establish routes and caches that would support the covert motion of awoken ships. Most of all, she charged her brother with the mission that occupied her thoughts. "Brother," she said, "never again can I allow my people to be divided. We must offer them more than shielding ice and cold habitat cylinders and the warrens of Vesta. We must make a culture, a thread that binds us all in pride and wonder at the mystery of ourselves. Nowhere does culture flourish better than in a city." "Gather in one place," Uldren warned her, "and you make yourself a target." Mara had considered this and found an answer. "Go forth and find me a power unknown to all the other powers of this world. Return it to me, and I shall make it the cornerstone of my new city, where the awoken shall dream of all they have been and all that is yet to come." So Uldren went out, voyaging among the worlds, swift as a blue-shift ghost. In time, he returned to the reef with a creature not larger than his hand, saying, "Behold, sister, the lie that makes itself true. This is an Ahamkara." Excuse me. God, I hate having gas in my stomach. You guys probably didn't need to know that, but you do now. Telic 2. It was Mara alone who established a covenant with... Jesus. Crap, dropped my phone. Damn it. I was trying to check to see what time it is. 1 o'clock. Okay. Damn it. Shit. The stupid things that happens. Okay. Telic 1. Mara... no. No, that wasn't it. Telic 2. Telic 2. It was Mara alone who established a covenant with that young Ahamkara, who chose the used name Riven in honor of its host. It was Mara alone whose singular will and unity of purpose saved the Awoken from that which we now name the Anthem of Anatheme. For there was in Mara very little division between reality as is and reality as desired. She was confident in her centuries of purpose and patient with the winding way by which the river of methods reached the objective oceans. Blessed are those who are in their absolute selfhood, become selfless. Unappetizing are those in their truest self-knowledge exclude the possibility of self-deceit. "Mara," said Uldren Queen's brother, "why do you forbid me to speak to the Ahamkara?" "This secret is mine alone," said Mara Queen. She knew this. She knew that her brother had only widened the gap between he as was, which he is called Noom, and he as he would be, which is called Cost. "Begone to the outer world where I require thee." This was when Sior Edo, having spoken to Kelda Wage and to Isilla, at last came before her queen, kneeling. She said, "Your Majesty, Kelda Wage says you are a god, for there is no difference between your desire and reality. Yet I know that you desire things before they ever become real. Isilla says that you are keeping a secret from your brother that he must never know. I think the secret is thus. You are now a god, because one day you will become a god. And a god is not temporal. Your brother is not a god, because he will never become a god. Shall I worship you?" "Sior," Mara said, falling to her knees, clutching her beloved's face between her shaking hands. "Sior, on the day you worship me, you cannot love me any more, for to worship is to yield all power, and I cannot love what has no power over me." At this, the Ahamkara coiled around her neck, yawned, and showed its fangs, for there was a crevice between what was and what was wanted. I see, Siorato said. Then to me you are not yet a god. Although in time the knowledge of what Mara had become pushed them apart, it was a kind and happy push, as a friend might urge a beloved companion onward to a distant opportunity, and their days together were spent gladly. Tyrannicide 1. Mara's death begins in this mark, X. Later would come Eris Morn, Osiris, Toland, and all the other accessories to the majestic suicide. Later would come the reef's tentative entanglements with the Vex and Cabal, Fallen and Hive, and the fateful decision to intervene when the House of Wolves turned earthward to conquer the last human city. Later, there would be stories here, untold, and the Ahamkara and the subcreation of the Dreaming City, the Shatterstone fury of the Reef Wars, Brother Aldrin's journeys into the Fell Garden, and great sweeping plots whose beginnings and consequences have been entirely expunged for the sake of elegance, or, as Route 81, redacted for the sake of secrets yet untold. Here is where the beginning began, and that moment when Mara bolted awake from a dream. Her circle of Technians lay with her in a misty winter cold chamber, and they came back groggily, their augments stuttering with resync. She had dreamt a thought of absolute simplicity and perfection, and the thought that had become a tooth and bitten her, and it had left a wound shaped like X. Mara seized the pane of crystal paper, flashed its rigid and receptive with a touch, and wrote, "I dreamt of a sword and bomb. I dreamt of the self-honing blade that has cut itself so fine it pierces the world and thus becomes the world. It is self-honing because it constantly whets itself against itself. I dreamt of death bearing this blade, or of something so closely allied with death as to be its synonym, so that to separate them would be required a knife sharper than sharpness. Death raised up that blade and said, 'I cut all, and all I cut, I it.' Then death cut the bomb, and the bomb was broken and could not fire. I was in the bomb. I knew that death was the cut verb, and that its only verb was to cut. Shapes and gliders. I dreamt of existence as a game of cellular automata. In this metaphor, there were only two things. Shapes in the game world, and the rules of the game world. The rules were the rules of life and death. I understood that the sword was the desire to escape existence as a shape in the game, and to become the rule that made the shapes. The rule said, only live or die. It had no other outputs. It could not keep secrets. Against it was the desire to become a shape so complex that it could within itself play other games. What will soon be? I dreamt that the sword was death, and rule sought out complexity, and cut it to reveal the simplicity within. I knew that soon we would be cut, for we were complex and full of secrets. I knew that it was coming. I knew that the stroke would fall and that I had to stop it. How can I make a bomb make use of a sword? How can the rule that separates life from death be killed? I must go to the Dreaming City and use the Oracle engine. Mara told her Technians, "Prepare my ship." Tyrannicide 2. 10 times and once more Mara asked the Oracle engine to show her the sword that was death and the way it would appear. 10 times and once more the Oracle engine showed Mara in laughing and bright with strength, who could recede and later return. Then it showed her Aldrin, her brother, who explores the ruins of the fallen worlds and sought out challenges to test himself. Then it showed Mara her own face and lingered on the secret brightness of her eyes. Last of all,
leaving Mara imperious with disdain toward her own feelings, curtly aloof toward all who asked her what troubled her. It showed her Osana, who had remained behind. Mara dwelt on this puzzle. A mother who remained behind, a sister with secrets, a brother who hunted and explored, a woman who was plain and fierce. She understood that the answer to her question lay within herself, and that to defeat what was coming, she would need a perfect understanding of herself. Isolation would be her watchword, for an isolated system is easier of all to understand. First of all, Mara went into the gardens and planted a flower for her mother, who she thought must still live, though she might now have forgotten her daughter and her first son. "Mother," she said, "I asked to be your sister rather than your daughter, and so you denied me the chance." Hang on, got a notification. Oh, different thing. Yeah, whatever. "Mother," she said, "I asked to be your sister rather than your daughter, and so I denied you the chance to tell me your secret, the mother truth that is mapped in the negative space, defined by the lies mothers tell their daughters. Well, here are my secrets. I love you. I have always loved you. Without you, I could never have been anything at all." Then she went back to speak to her brother, but Uldren was away on Mars, and she found only his empty chambers, his half-sharpened knives, and racks of pistols. She knelt in grief and touched her hand to the floor, where his pacing boots had scuffed the asteroid stone smooth. This was the shape of their siblinghood now, the pursuit of absences. Last of all, Mara went to Sior Edo. Sior was making a list of incredibly stupid and fatal tasks to post on a Guardian bounty board. "I want to tell you the truth," Mara said. "Ask me a question. If you take a positive integer and half it if it's even, but triple it and add 1 if it's odd, and you repeat this process forever, you will always, eventually, reach 1? Sior Edo demanded. "Sior, my faithful wrath," Mara said. "Please take my openness seriously, though I'm sure Ilin could answer your math problems." "Okay." Sior looked at her curiously. "Then here's my question. What's gotten into you? Why are you acting like this?" "Can we talk?" Mara asked her. Tyrannicide 3. I'm going to read this last one, and then I'm going to kill the stream because my jaw hurts. I'm tired. It's late. And I kind of want to go to bed. So I'm going to read Tyrannicide 3, and then I'm going to kill the stream, and then I'm going to do a part 2 for this later. So it'll be so much easier on everybody. I'm pretty sure the people who are still watching are probably so sick of me hearing me talk. I'm going to be honest, I'm starting to get sick of myself hearing myself talk. Anyways, Tyrannicide 3. Mara and Sior Edo got into space and kick off the hull wearing Corsair skin pressure suits and slim tethers. The stars encircled them like hard focus candles, like diadems of a trillion dancers. Sior Edo pulls herself close and touches helmets with Mara. "We're alone. What's happened, Mara? You always been, private?" Mara suggests. "Mysterious and reclusive, I was going to say." "A sword can be part of a bomb if the sword strike is the detonation mechanism," Mara says. "It's impossible for a cellular automata game to change its own rules, but it is possible to create sub-games with their own rules, and for those sub-games to yield advantage in the master game." "That's cool," Sior says. "You know, when you talk like that, what you're actually saying is, I don't want anyone to understand me, but I want them to understand they don't understand me." "Yeah," Mara admits, and then hoarsely she makes herself say, "Sior, I have this secret, this thing I did, and I don't know if anyone can know it without hating me forever." I had a secret too, Sior reminds her. The thing I did. It's nothing compared to mine. Nothing at all. Having had some long experience hating you, and then having given it up, I think it would be hard for me to go back. Sior's strong hand settles on the small of Mara's back. They twirl onward, rotating around at a point between them, their 1,000-kilometer tethers slowly unfurling. Do you want to tell me? No, Mara says, but I think I have to. Okay. Your Majesty, what did you do that made Alis Lee throw her blackberry tea in your face? I was first, Mara says, and then she explains the missing half, the first half of the sentence. I made the rules and the initial conditions that deceived her into believing she herself had decided. It ends like that, where the rest picks up. Sior Edo looks at her expressionless silence. Sior Edo's hands stroke the seams between Mara's skin suit, the glassy petals of her helmet. Long ago, this woman betrayed her oath and went to serve the Diacerm, a woman who cried out in anguish at the curse of physicality, the possibility of suffering. Long ago, this woman threw away her whole life to punish the highest crimes she could imagine. The denial of transcendent divinity to those who have claimed it. You're the devil, Sior says. You're the lone power who made death. You allowed the possibility of evil. You might be responsible for more preventable suffering than anything that has ever existed. Mara cannot shake her head or even nod. Well, Sior says, if you hadn't, none of us would be here. I guess I don't see what else you could have done. If you cared about those we left behind, if you wanted us to be able to go back and help in the fight. She leans forward very gently and kisses the inside of her helmet, where she meets Mara's, in her mind, in that place that is bound to all other awoken. Mara feels the touch of gentle lips. Sior looks suddenly sly. You know, Mara, I don't think you could have confessed anything at all, unless it were a way of keeping a deeper secret. What's really going on? There are many ways to godhood, Mara tells her. The belt of Orion glitters in her helmet like the 3-star rating left by some hive entity Sior once killed. One way is to kill all that is killable, so all that remains must be immortal. Another is the road I've walked, mostly by accident. One of these ways is the closer to the sword, and one is closer to the bomb. If the bomb can be defeated, the sword by standard of the sword, then the bomb has claimed to primacy. Never mind, Sior sighs. Seen anything cool on crow surveillance lately? Okay. Okay, that's going to do it for me tonight, guys. I'm sorry I really couldn't finish this lore book. It's a very long one, and I know I said I was going to read the ghost stories as well. I'm sorry, but my jaw hurts. Like, believe it or not, your jaw actually hurts after talking for a long time. Like, oh, my throat, and the bottom, like the very bottom part of my, like the uppermost part of my throat, it just aches because I've been talking so much. So that's gonna do it for me, guys. I'll probably do another one of these streams later this week where I finish this up and then read the ghost stories. And what I am gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to get the finish of the Black Armory. There isn't much to go with this. I can finish this up easy, and then we'll have some more lore books to read. So, anyways, that's gonna do it for me tonight, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed my lore stream. I plan to do more of these, but you know, I'm sorry that I didn't get you guys the lore videos sooner. I've been busy with work, and I really haven't, and I'm trying not to burn myself out in Destiny before Shadowkeep. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this, And if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, I will do my best to leave timestamps in the comment section, and they will be pinned so you guys can select the lore books that you want. But Awoken of the Reeve is only going to have a part 1, so just for tonight. It'll have a part 2 in the next one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Kill the stream now. No one was watching.